So I didn't introduce myself earlier because this is my introduction, my spotlight. Christine Martin. I've been here. Thank you. And thank you all for coming too. This is an honor. I apologize for the barn. The builders left at 6 o'clock yesterday afternoon. So there's some things that still aren't working, but it's functional. So Christine Martin, just to make it clear, I'm not from Texas. I was born in Argentina, raised in Brazil of British parents. I've been in Texas for 20 years. I started with 5 acres in Hockley. That was my homesteading phase. And really it was when I lived in Argentina, we lived out in the country and I didn't want to move to suburbia. So I bought 5 acres and did the commute into downtown and did the corporate route. This is what I'm calling my third career. My first third of my career, I traded grains, soybean and corn and wheat, overseas and domestically. I traveled around and lived in overseas for quite a while. And then when we moved to Texas, my daughter made me promise that we wouldn't move every 2 years. So I think I've honored that promise. And then I made the switch to oil and gas. So I traded oil and gas for up through April of this year. Took early retirement so I could be a full-time rancher. The progression of my ranching, my ranching experience started with the homesteading, and we got the chickens, we got the dairy cow, and then I got sick. And I realized that the food that I was eating was making me sick. As I was raised in Argentina and Brazil, we used to shop at a farmer's market. Big grocery stores were not available at that time. And so every week we would go to the market and get fresh fish, fresh beef, fresh vegetables. But when I came to the States, I found out about Kraft macaroni and cheese and Snickers bars and Squirt, the beverage Squirt, and all this stuff, and progressed and eventually realized that food was making me sick. So it's part of what I'm doing here is because I healed myself of health issues by changing the way I eat. And Dr. Hill will speak more about that later. But so I am trying to raise meat that is as full with as much nutrition as I can. And I have been a subscriber for Acres magazine for many, many years, and would read all these awesome things people were doing, and I would implement them, but some things worked and some others didn't work, and it was kind of frustrating. Until on Facebook, I saw an advertisement for Holistic Management International's Beginning Farmer Rancher course, and called and was able to get in, and it was life-changing. And there's several people, Tracy and Lori, who were taking registrations. They were my teachers during this course. Wayne Knight is our new executive director with HMI. He comes all the way from South Africa, so got a lovely accent. But anyway, the one thing that I left with from the Beginning Rancher course was this whole concept of making a decision that will lead you towards your goal. We all have a vision, right? We all have a goal, and figuring out how to make that decision that takes you closer to the goal rather than away from the goal. And then the other one is context. Context. All these practices that I had tried to use, that I read about at Acres magazine and some other magazines, that it worked for them, but it didn't work for me. It's because I didn't put it into context. My environment is different than yours. Just like our genetic is individual and our fingerprints are our individual uniqueness, every ranch, every operation has its own uniqueness. So even before I graduated from that class, I knew I wanted to be involved with HMI. I wanted to help people understand this, how life-changing it is. So I'm close to getting my certification with HMI to be a certified educator. I still have a lot to learn, but I think when you work with nature, you're constantly learning. So, which is exciting because it's a challenge. It can be frustrating, but when you see the results, and I'm going to make a plug for Wayne because he's going to talk about this more. We need to monitor. Whenever we implement a practice, something new, we need to go back and say, is this working? Is this not working? And catch it before it becomes that train wreck, that disaster. So monitoring, and you'll hear this quite a bit today. You need to monitor. Betsy's going to talk to you about how to look at your plants and monitor that your practices are shifting the environment to where you want it to go. Wayne's going to talk about how to monitor your livestock to make sure that the management practices you're implementing are working. And then Dr. Fred Provenza and Stefan Van Fleet, they're going to talk about the animal and the human. And then Dr. Arlen, as I said, will talk about the medical aspect of it. And we're going to end the day with a panel. Well, during the presentations, you're welcome to ask any questions, but we hope that the panel is where we get a lot of discussion, a lot of more in-depth questions. So, don't keep from asking questions, but kind of save them for the panel. Okay? Any questions? Concerns? Okay. Good transition, Rhonda. So I would like to bring up, I'll actually hand over the microphone to Betsy. And Betsy, I'm not going to introduce you because you can do a good job.
Thank you. Well, glad to see y'all today. I'm Betsy Ross. I have grass-fed beef. Betsy Ross's grass-fed beef that we started about 25 years ago. And everyone said you can't do that in Texas. But I had a sick grandchild. And I heard Sally Fallon talk and say that we were doing things wrong on the farm. And so we needed to make sure that we started farming differently. And I wanted that for a grandbaby. Those of you who have grandbabies know what to do. You'll crawl over anything to help that grandchild, by golly. And the land is the perfect place to do it because it all starts here. So then we started doing some different practices, and people started coming to the farm, and they would say, well, surely you're using chemicals. No. We had found Elaine Ingham and some other people, and we went to those schools for a couple of years and came back and knew all the answers. It was all about soil biology. But when you're out in the field, it's not just about soil biology. It's about a lot of other stuff, too. And so what we do in our company, and Brian, why don't you come on up here? Brian Russ is part of our organization now, and is, aren't you glad to be here?
Yes.
And we be over there. Oh, no. And anyway, he's awesome guy, and he lives there at the farm too. And we're doing some new things, and he's bringing new input to it. But we've worked for him for years. He's a great grazer. I always say he's one of the best, top 5 grazers in the state of Texas. And one day he said, "Well, who's ahead of me?"
You still haven't told me.
Well, I don't want to discourage anyone else, see, sort of thing. So anyway, we have a good time. But what we've come to realize is the natural processes, if we can jump-start those, photosynthesis, the biochemistry, everything happening in that plant, and then feeding that fuel, those sugars, to the microbes who are missing most of the time, if we can jumpstart that so they can get going and all of this work together in harmony, that's what we should be doing, and that's what we do. And it's a different mindset, believe me. And where biology has been the missing link, it is mostly gone. And when a lot of the writings you read now, they are written at a time when we had lots of biology in the soil. We've come to a point where we think it's a community. It's not a competition. We need lots of diversity, but the whole thing you need to remember, if you remember nothing else, if you're doing rangeland and out on big properties, you got to understand you never want the microbes to run out of food because they have to eat. Do you realize that these plants here had to have a shot of, are going to have a shot of carbon today from the sunshine? That's got to fuel them. We tend to put something down and say, there, make it last 6 months. Well, if you don't feed them, they don't have food in front of them, then you're not going to ever keep things going. You're going to have to start over again. So that's a little bit of a rushed thing, but I want Brandon to come over with his plots. I wanted to show this to you right off. Now, when you're jump starting natural processes, remember, you want stuff in the plant, not on it necessarily, in on it. So here's what we're going to have, this color. You want to have your ground be chocolate brown. Chocolate brown. And we can see that it's building if we turn it here and all. And of course it has that doggy old bahia grass, which doesn't belong here. That's just a taker, and it doesn't give back anything. And you want to try to overcome those sorts of things. And this is from the other side of the road. He'll show you the infiltration. Now, he put the shovel right here. What did he create when he put the shovel right there? Huh? He created an anaerobic, compacted area, didn't he? This is not what the soil really looks like. The other side here is what it really looks like. But you can tell it's kind of flaky, and it still has that bahia in it. You can see a little fungi in there. If this gets wet and you're walking through it, it's going to stick to your feet. That means your magnesium is too available. And so that creates compaction right there. And they call that the gumbo clay and all. But that's just because we've depleted the balance. We have upset the balance on all of this. So I wanted you to know what we're. Let's tear that root off. I want to show you about bahia. Yeah, it's has that boot on it, and it secretes a hormone that says, "Okay, you buccos, you're going to sleep, my territory." And so it's pretty good food for a little while, and then it turns brown. And it's very tough, and then it mats over. It's shallow rooted, just perfect when you've overgrazed your soils. So that's what we're trying to show you on a pastoral walk. What you're doing, we're trying to move from up here down the biology. We're going to add the biology to all of this too, and it's going to slowly move down to a chocolate brown there in the soil. And you want to be able to, if you're a living organism, what kind of system would you call that? Could we call that a carbon-based system? Everything life needs carbon. Carbon, carbon, carbon. And so where do we get that carbon from? We're going to start up here, and we're going to start down here. We can get what we tend to call carbon is what decomposes on top. But that's of the ground when it plants the nest. But that's not going to last long. That's pretty temporary. And so that can disappear fast. That's what this is about up here, is that residue. And so if I'm a root trying to get down here and I can't get past here, see, we just got some feeder roots going down deeper. But this plant doesn't give back anything. It's a dog. No, excuse me. Okay. And this one is too much magnesium available, not enough calcium, soluble calcium. And so we got problems both ways. But it's a work in progress. Work in progress. And what we're going to do today, do y'all know your grasses? Have you ever put a shovel in the ground? So you know how to do that. And we're going to show you how to do that. And in the ground, we have all the plant, we have the biochemistry action, the sugar factory, that is feeding itself and feeding all of the microbes hovering at the roots. So if we coat our seeds with good mycorrhizal, good biology before we plant them, we can automatically track. They'll have food and resources here and can wake up when they're ready. Now, Mama Nature does not spend energy she can't fulfill. If the support system is not there, you're going to have trouble. You're going to be pushing a chain the whole time. So we get excited and we say, oh, we'll just, nuke it all and we'll get going. But really, every time you put a chemical out there, not chemistry, but chemical, you are killing some microbes. So we're going to, every living thing needs what? Air, water, food, shelter. You got that? Air, water, food, and shelter. If I'm a living organism, if I'm a microbe, and I'm down there at the roots of these tall grass prairies, and I starve to death down there, that's not too good. Or if I'm going to starve to death if I can't get the air, first of all. We've got to air the soil, aerate the soil. Well, how do you do that? Well, we could bring out those big machines, and we can make a cup, teacups, a whole field of teacups that are sheared on every side, and we just created thousands of little compacted details for everything to work through. We don't want that to happen. Jump-starting natural processes to take care of the grass. We have a saying, if you want to grow grass, let the grass grow, for goodness sakes. And we do everything to do it. We think weeds are our friends, that they are a vital part. But if you get stuck in someplace where all you have is weeds or one kind of weed, believe me, they're contributing. They're the real fixers in here. Mama Nature says, well, Betsy, if you're not going to fix your land, I guess I'll have to send you giant ragweed. And then also send us Mexican hat. By golly, it was so much easier when you could go out there and squirt, kill this. But what are we missing in our society? What are we missing in our food? What are we missing in this land here? Who makes all of the vitamins? Where do you get your vitamins from? Get them from the store, don't you? You ought to be getting them. You ought to be getting them from the grass, from the grass. And when our cattle eat the grass, when our chickens eat the grass, they get that in there. So we've got to make sure that we're on track at all times here with lots of diversity. Now, looking down at yourself, you have some smut grass. What did you call that? Your tall? Long spike trident. I don't see that much over here. And so you want diversity. But what we have here, we also have goatweed. Don't fall down there. And that is, that plagues y'all up here. A lot of problems. And that's kind of a poor health situation. So you're going to try to make all these natural processes more vibrant and work in harmony. When you work in harmony, you want to sit down and go and just lie down and be relaxed. And it is a subtle energy that you have. And if you watch your pastures, you see when she lets them in here after they've been here a while, they will understand that they are going to have their favorite spot in there. And a cow, when she's, she spends a third of her time eating, third of her time chewing her cud, and then a third of the time sleeping. And so they had graduate students follow those around. You kids from San Marcos. Of course, you don't do it. It's non-contiguous. So what we're going to do, if we can see right over here, by allowing the diversity to come in, is that we have the nuttall, the mimosa, the legume coming. Well, good. If we had gone in and had lightly tilled all these soils to stimulate, are we going to be stimulating? Okay, it's this one. It's the one with the stripe right there in front of you. Nope. It's if I bend over, I may not get it back up. There you go. Yeah. Nope. Thank you. Yeah, right. So the yellow, yeah, that is the same one. It's a little different maturity over here. And so, remember I said the main thing we want to do is make sure nothing ever, the microbes never run out of food. And when they do, they often turn facultative and become pathogens. And we use the Albrecht methods of soil analysis and have been very successful with that sort of thing. So there are a lot of different ways to do things, but just to come out and walk in a pasture, just standing where you are, how many different grasses do you see and shrubs and that sort of thing? We wanted a minimum 20 to 30, even in a Bermuda field, a good Bermuda field. This is a legume. They're coming out in the fall, and this is a cool season grass. It's going to take us through the winter if we let it. But if we mow it or we're going to be spraying for weeds, we lose that opportunity. You don't want to lose those opportunities. Remember, you're going to keep the microbes alive. Keep them alive. It's going to keep us alive. And so I was saying, who makes your vitamins? Who makes your enzymes? And so people are always, the answer to that is people say, and I say, the microbes, of course, and the amino acids and the antibiotics and everything you need in your body should be in some of those different plants so that you have a complete meal and complete proteins. So if we don't pay any attention to our traces, the little small stuff, you're mainly deficient in molybdenum and cobalt here, which is needed in the nitrogen cycle, which is probably neither here nor there right now. But this is very good to see right now. Christine has allowed a lot of diversity to come in here. But it was an old cotton field, so it is very much has been atrazine to death. All the biology has been, the other group side is trying to make the soil sterile so they can sell the same seed in lots of different places. What we're trying to do is say, just come on. Anyone that can help, come on up. Come on, help us. Whether you be insect, whether you be grasshopper, and you know what the grasshoppers and the webworms are doing for you? They're cleaning up your mistakes. They are Mama Nature's quality control. So we don't want to be just go kill them. If it needs to be taken down, let's let them take it down and put it back in the soil so the microbes can rework it again. So everything is precious that you see here. Nothing bad in Mama Nature unless you get standing under the avalanche when it starts. But so our goal is to get a lot of air in here, into the soil first. Is it compacted? How many of you saw five grasses or shrubs or forbs? You know, you saw 10. And knows her glasses. Okay, anyone else bother to look? You gotta look. You gotta be out here. So you got a little bit of milkweed too. If you have a lot of milkweed, it's telling you you don't have enough zinc. And of course, you need zinc for all the other stuff. So you've always got these little things playing out. You don't want to have everything the same. No monocultures. Let's build a community. Let's invite everyone. But everyone's not going to come to the table at the same time. It depends upon what jobs need to be done. And so at our place, we've been doing this for 28 years with biology. And someone could say, well, haven't you done a better job? Well, things keep changing. and we're trying to take care of it as we take care of a lot of other properties too by doing this. So I want first, this is a compaction meter. And Brian's going to demonstrate to you how this works. You want to explain to him about?
Well, it measures compaction, the amount of force I have to apply in PSI, and then this is basically half an inch, and then these notches, each one of these is 3 inches. And so a root can exert 200 PSI on the ground. So what's that, about an inch that a root can go in the ground?
A live root. Have enough oxygen. Have enough hold enough water. And that's what we saw here. Now you're going to plant into that and to expect to get a good result? Well, you better fix that compaction issue first before you do that. And your soil structure and your ability for these things to come in and on the farm. So can you push it down to 300 PSI? You hit a crack.
No, I think there's a plow pan there that I felt broke through.
Look here, Christine, where are you? Huh?
I
No.
think it's probably an old plow pan from when you used to farm. So
What?
right. So 300 PSI. That's as far as oxygen, so air can go into the soil.
And a root, a good root that's going to give back.
Well, a root is 200, isn't it?
Yeah.
And air is 300.
Okay.
But then after about
On the cone.
after about 3 inches, I was breaking through. Of course, it's not going to do it now, but it did it several other places.
And you can do this with an 18-inch screwdriver. Yeah, all the time. So.
But yeah, there is a plow pan or whatever you want to call it there, and I can break through it in some places. In some places I can't. Like there I went through. But this is also dependent upon moisture too. If she hadn't had the rain, this probably wouldn't go in.
It would probably be so sticky, it would keep everything, it would shear off because of the excess soluble magnesium in the soil. So have you kind of got that? And then we're also, so we can keep track of this sort of thing right here. And then we have a little EC meter. Here's another crack, Christine. We're going to put a shovel in that in a minute. And so here the EC meter is measuring the energy in the soil. And what we're looking for is 0.2 to 0.9. If we have 0.2 to 0.3.5 or 4 in the soil, we have enough energy to bring seeds and growth out of the ground. And then if we've used all of our energy up, or you put the wrong kind of amendment on it, then you're just going to get a lot of other stuff coming in, and you'll kind of hit a plateau. But if you have 4 to say 7 EC, 0.4 to 0.7, you have enough to bring energy in the soil and to treat the plant so it can grab the sunlight, the fuel from the photosynthesis, and keep working. And so it's going to get bigger and bigger. And then if you have 0.7 to 9,
No, you just need to keep it closer to you.
thank you. Did you notice I have hearing aids? Getting old is a new journey. But it's never too late to start. Never too.
What is that meter? I couldn't hear what you said. So it's electrical conductivity. It's just a measure of the energy and the life in the soil.
So it's another quick way to learn things, what's happening. Because without energy, you don't do much, do you? And so, and then if you you have more than that, you're going to have up to 9.9 you're going to have enough to reproduce. Yes. It is on there.
I don't even know.
It's not the regular SAR test, but it's the same principle type thing.
It's something per cubic meter.
Tracy, did you? Okay. All right. The ranges are 0.2 to 0.4. That's to have enough energy to get a seed to pop up out of the ground. Takes energy that we're getting from photosynthesis. That the plant is squirting out to the microbes living around the roots of the grass. Then you go to 0.4 to 0.7, say, and there's nothing, border, a little bit here or there, but 0.4 to 0.7, you're going to be able to grow some height on that plant, get some vegetation going. You got to have that. That's how good your soil has to be. And then you go from 0.7 to 0.995. Then you're able to reproduce, have enough energy for the plant to reproduce. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. Now remember, we want every food, nutrients and all to be a part of the grass. We want our animals to get their nutrition from the grass. And so if we are over there, see they're swishing their tails, if we could get some more sulfur in the grass, because we're deficient in sulfur all over America, as well as magnesium as a rule, and if we could get that in the grass and they ate it, they wouldn't be swishing. We have some pastures where we've actually achieved that. And when photographers come, we always move them in there in the night before. Yeah. Notice their heads are down. So, sulfur. Sulfur. That's all the nutrients. You want them in the grass. And a lot of times you have to, of course, be chelated, whatever you want to call it, to get things in the grass. But imagine what that would do, what that would save you in manpower. But mainly, what would happen if you ate that beef that ate that? You would have a leg up. Your food could really become your medicine, everything you needed. So these things are critical that you take another look. But Mama Nature's figured this out ages ago, and we just don't listen. We want to be in charge. Well, what our firm does, our approach is, let's manage and let's try to help everything get back in balance and let her do her job. Like I said, if you want to grow grass, let the grass grow. Don't worry about that weed unless it is just overpowering so much that it is wiping everything else out. But it's usually going to be an invasive grass like Bahia, like KR blue stem, but KR's blue stem's better than Bahia, and you'll have a lot of Bahia over here in the sand. So now he's going to take a EC meter and read it right there. 0.44. Well, that sinks pretty well, doesn't it? Right now. But so if you put it in there, and you always put it at a slant, or else you have to crawl down on your knees to read the meter.